Hi, Greg, thank you. Now, people contemplating divorce sometimes believe and think that if property is in the name of one spouse only, it is the separate property of that spouse. Well, we join now with family law attorney Sonia Kaufman, and I guess, welcome by the way.
Thank you.
I guess that is not necessarily true?
Not necessarily true. It is more important to determine how and when a spouse acquired the property rather than whose name it's in, because the law presumes that all property on hand at the time of divorce is community property. So if a spouse claims separate, it's their burden to prove that the property is in fact separate, meaning that it's not included in the division at the time of divorce, because they acquired it either during the marriage as a result of gift or inheritance, or it's property that they had on hand at the time of marriage.
So when we talk about property, it could be jewelry, home, car. What does this include?
Anything, any property of substance that someone wants to go to the trouble to prove that it's their separate property is something that can be proven by clear and convincing evidence. And just because the spouse whose name it's in doesn't determine separate property, it is important to, if possible, keep property in the spouse's separate name, because that can be helpful in tracing and identifying community or separate property at the time of divorce.
Gosh, I feel like you almost have to be an attorney to figure all this stuff out.
Sometimes getting advice can be a helpful thing, yeah.
Now, there's practical reasons behind trying to figure all this out and making sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, right?
True, because for one thing, if a spouse puts another spouse's name or the other spouse's name on an account or on a deed to real property, that can be considered a gift. So be careful before putting the spouse's name there. And also, if you commingle separate property with community, that may require tracing to split out the separate property portion of an account, and that can be expensive and time-consuming and can require expert testimony. So it's best if you can keep property in the name of the spouse whose property it is.
So you run across, I'm sure, many cases during your career. Is it ever just cut and dried?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
There are plenty of people that reach agreement, so we never have to fight about those things. And there are plenty of people who have only separate property or only community property, so we're not dealing with those issues. But it's just something to be aware of if you're contemplating divorce.
All right, so if somebody needed your help, what do they need to do?
Call us.
Okay.
We'll be glad to talk to them.
All right, that sounds great. Thanks so much for being in today and this very helpful advice for those who need to figure this out.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.